was dead to begin with. There's no doubt about that. The burial register was signed by the clergyman, the clerk, the undertaker, and the chief mourner.
Scrooge signed it, and Scrooge's name was good for anything in the exchange.
Old Marley was dead as a doornail. Mind, I don't know what there is particularly dead about a doornail.
Scrooge knew he was dead. How could it be otherwise? The two of them were partners for I don't know how many years. Scrooge was his sole executor, administrator, friend, and mourner. He was an excellent man of business on the very day of the funeral.
The firm remained known as Scrooge and Marley. Sometimes newcomers called Scrooge Scrooge, and sometimes Marley, but he answered to both.
Oh, but he was a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone, Scrooge. A squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner. Hard and sharp as flint, secret and self-contained, and solitary as an oyster.
Indeed, no wind that blew was bitterer than he.
But once upon a time, of all the good days in the year, on Christmas Eve, old Scrooge sat busy in his counting house. It was cold, bleak, biting weather.
The people outside went wheezing up and down, beating their hands upon their breasts and stamping their feet. It was dark, and candles were flaring in the windows of neighboring offices. Fog came pouring in at every chink and keyhole. Scrooge kept his eye on his clerk, who sat in a dismal little cell, copying letters.
Well, suddenly a ray of cheer broke through the door. It was Scrooge's nephew, Fred.
A Merry Christmas, Uncle. God save you.
Christmas. Bah! Humbug.
Christmas, a humbug, Uncle. You don't mean that, I'm sure.
I do. Merry Christmas. What right have you to be merry? What reason have you to be merry? You're poor enough.
Oh, come then. What right have you to be dismal? What reason have you to be morose? You're rich enough.
Impertinence.
Oh, don't be cross, Uncle.
What else can I be when I live in such a world of fools as this? Merry Christmas. Out upon Christmas. What's Christmas time to you but a time for paying bills without money? A time for finding yourself a year older and not an hour richer. If I could work my will, every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips should be broiled with his own pudding and buried with a stake of holly through his heart.
Uncle!
Nephew, keep Christmas in your own way and let me keep it in mine.
But you don't keep it.
Let me leave it alone, then. Much good may it do you.
But Christmas time is the only time I know of when men and women seem by one consent to open their hearts freely and to think of people below them as fellow passengers, not another race of creatures bound on other journeys. And therefore, Uncle, though it has never put a scrap of gold in my pocket or silver, I believe that it has done me good and will do me good. And I say, God bless it.
God bless it.
Another sound from you, Bob Cratchit, and you'll keep your Christmas by losing your situation.
Oh, don't be angry, Uncle. Come, dine with us tomorrow.
I'd sooner be boiled in oil.
But why?
Why did you marry against my wishes?
Because I fell in love.
Love? The only thing in the world more ridiculous than a Merry Christmas. Good afternoon, sir.
I want nothing from you, and I ask nothing of you. Why can we not be friends?
Good afternoon.
I'm sorry with all my heart to find you so resolute. We have never had any quarrels to which I have been a party. But I have made the trip in homage to Christmas, and I'll keep my Christmas humor to the last. A Merry Christmas to you, Uncle.
Good afternoon.
And a Happy New Year.
Humbug!
Merry Christmas, Bob.
A Merry Christmas, sir.
You're another fine fellow, Bob Cratchit. 15 shillings a week, and a wife, and family. Talking of a Merry Christmas. I'll retire to Bedlam.
Then in come two portly gentlemen who stood with their hats off in Scrooge's office.
Scrooge and Marley's, I believe. Have I the pleasure of addressing Mr. Scrooge or Mr. Marley?
Mr. Marley has been dead these 7 years. He died 7 years ago this very night.
We have no doubt his liberality is well represented by his surviving partner.
Liberality, an ominous word.
At this festive time of the year, it is more than usually desirable that we should make some slight provision for the poor and destitute.
Many thousands are in want of common necessaries.
Hundreds of thousands are in want of common comforts, sir.
Are there no prisons?
Oh, plenty of prisons.
And the workhouses, are they still in operation?
They are still. I wish I could say they were not.
The treadmill and the poor law are in full vigor then.
Both very busy, sir.
I'm very glad to hear it. I was afraid that something had occurred to stop them in their useful course.
They scarcely furnish Christian cheer of mind or the body to the multitude, sir. A few of us are endeavouring to raise a fund to buy the poor some meat and drink and means of warmth. We choose this time because it's a time when want is keenly felt and abundance rejoices. What shall I put you down for?
Nothing.
You wish to be left anonymous.
I wish to be left alone. Since you ask me what I wish, gentlemen, that is my answer. I don't make merry myself at Christmas, and I cannot afford to make idle people merry. My taxes help support the establishments I have mentioned. They cost enough. Those who are badly off must go there.
Many can't go there, and many would rather die.
Well, if they would rather die, they had better do it and decrease the surplus population.
But, sir...
It's enough for a man to understand his own business and not to interfere with other people's. My business occupies me constantly. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Scrooge resumed his labors with an improved opinion of himself.
Meanwhile, the fog and darkness thickened. The brightness of the shops made pale faces ruddy, and the grocers' trades became a splendid joke, a glorious pageant that had little to do with such dull principles as bargain and sale.
The King Wenceslas lost the tower on the feast of Stephen, when the snow lay round about, deep and crisp and even. Brightly shone the moon that night, though the frost was cruel, when a poor man came in sight, gathering winter fuel.
At length, the hour of shutting up the counting house arrived.
I suppose you'll be wanting the whole day off tomorrow.
If it's quite convenient, sir.
It is not convenient, and it's not fair. If I was to stop you half a crown for it, you'd think yourself ill-used, I'll be bound. And yet you don't think me ill-used when I pay a day's wages for no work.
Sir, it's only once a year.
A poor excuse for picking a man's pocket every 25th of December. Be here all the earlier the next morning.
The office was closed in a twinkling. The clerk ran home as hard as he could pelt to play blind man's bluff. Scrooge took his melancholy dinner in his usual melancholy tavern, and then went home.
Now, it is a fact that there was nothing at all particular about the knocker on Scrooge's door, except that it was very large.
It is also a fact that Scrooge had seen it night and morning during his whole residence in the place.
And Scrooge had as little of what is called fancy about him as any man in the city of London.
Let it also be borne in mind that Scrooge had not bestowed one thought on Marley since his last mention of him that afternoon.
Then let any man explain to me, if he can, how it happened that Scrooge saw in the knocker, not a knocker, but Marley's face, with a dismal light about it, not angry or ferocious, but as Marley used to look, with ghostly spectacles turned up on its ghostly forehead. the hair curiously stirred, the eyes wide open and perfectly motionless.
And then it was a knocker again. To say he wasn't startled would be a lie. But he turned the key, walked in, and lighted his candle.
Bah! Humbug!
He fastened the door, walked across the hall and up the stairs. But before he shut the heavy door, he walked through his rooms to see that all was right. Sitting room, bedroom, lumber room, all as they should be. Nobody under the bed.
Nobody in the closet.
Nobody in his dressing gown.
Nobody. Quite satisfied, he closed the door and locked himself in.
Double locked himself in, not his custom.
He put on his dressing gown, slippers, and nightcap, and sat down before the fire to take his gruel.
A very low fire indeed for such a bitter night.
His glance happened to rest upon a disused bell, and as he looked, he saw this bell begin to swing. Softly at first, but soon it rang out loudly, and so did every bell in the house. The bells were succeeded by a clanking noise deep down below, as if someone were dragging a heavy chain over the wine casks in the cellar. The noise grew louder, coming up the stairs, then straight towards his door.
Humbug still. I won't believe it.
Without a pause, it came through the door and passed into the room.
Marley's ghost! Trembling, Scrooge asked what it wanted with him and who he was.
In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley. You don't believe me. Why do you doubt your senses?
Because a little thing affects them. A slight disorder of the stomach makes them cheats. You may be an undigested bit of beef, a crumb of cheese, a fragment of underdone potato. There's more of the gravy than of grave about you, whatever you are. You see this toothpick. I have but to swallow it and be for the rest of my days persecuted by a legion of goblins, all of my own creation. Humbug, I tell you. Humbug!
You and your worldly mind. Believe me, Ebenezer, it is required of every man that the spirit within him should walk abroad among his fellow men. And if that spirit goes not forth in life, it is condemned to do so after death. To wander through the world and witness what it cannot share, but might have shared on earth, and turn to happiness. I wear the chain I forged in life. I made it, link by link and yard by yard. I girded it on of my own free will, and of my own free will I wore it. Is its pattern strange to you? Or would you know the weight and length of strong coil you bear yourself? It was as long and full and heavy as this 7 Christmas Eves ago, and you have labored on it since. It is a ponderous chain. I bring no comfort for you. That comes from other regions, Ebenezer, and is conveyed by other kinds of ministers to other kinds of men. In life, my spirit never roved beyond the narrow limits of our counting house, and weary journeys lie before me. I cannot rest, I cannot stay, I cannot linger anywhere. 7 years, Ebenezer, captive, bound and double ironed. No space of regret can make amends for one's life's opportunities misused. I was a man of business. Business? Mankind was my business. The common welfare was my business. The dealings of my trade were but a drop of water in the comprehensive ocean of my business. Hear me. My time is nearly gone. I am here tonight to warn you that you have yet a chance and hope of escaping my fate. A chance and hope of my procuring, Ebenezer. You will be haunted by 3 spirits. Without their visits, you cannot hope to shun the path I tread. Expect the first when the bell tolls 1.
Couldn't I take them all at once and have it over with, Jacob?
Expect the first tomorrow when the bell tolls 1. the second on the next night at the same hour, the third upon the next night at the last stroke of 12. For your own sake, Ebenezer, take heed of this warning. Look to see me no more.